A bit of rain around, a bit cooler, to be doing some cooking, get out the old extra virgin, the special, the wisp, the special stuff from Cobram Estate to help you out. Calculating Cal Toomey is here, thanks to Cobram Estate, Premium Australian extra virgin olive oil. Calculating, we haven't got away to the trade period yet, but there's a bit going on.
No, a bit happening, Gary. Tim, how are you guys?
Going well, we're going well. I don't think there's been many development, or much development publicly anyway, from a Clayton Oliver point of view.
No, this situation clearly has reached fever pitch, though. All of what we reported on Tuesday, Riley Beveridge and myself, around clubs' interest in prying Clayton Oliver out of Melbourne, all that still exists. It's now just a matter of what would turn Melbourne's head on a deal and who are the clubs who are going to be considering a move. I think there's 5 clubs who will be looking at their options here and are looking at their options and have shown levels of interest. Adelaide, Essendon, Geelong, St Kilda and Sydney. The Crows are clearly doing their work on it and already have other trade talks in play with Melbourne on Shane McAdams. So that's that there. What would it take, Gary? It would have to be 2 first-round picks, and you'd think that the D's would have to see a way that they can turn their draft hand and Clayton Oliver into pick 1 and Harley Reid if it's going to get up. But regardless, though, these clubs, as we revealed on Tuesday, are continuing to weigh that up. And
the Melbourne club have given no indication they're going to trade him.
No, not as yet.
Yep.
No.
Sorry, did you say Adelaide were the front runner?
I wouldn't say necessarily the front runner, but they are certainly showing interest in it, Tim. So, and it makes sense. They've looked at their midfield over a couple of years. There's a link there with Darren Burgess, and clearly they have the draft hand and capital to make something happen.
Aaron Naughton, 8 years. What's your immediate reaction to that?
My immediate reaction is that's the price you have to pay for the best key forwards. I know there's a lot of talk around, these longer-term deals and clubs getting stuck with players. The alternate view on the Clayton Oliver story is that if he was a free agent now coming out of contract and leaving, Melbourne would just be at mercy of the free agency compensation system and would only get pick 15. So there's a level of control you get with long-term deals that allows you to also move around your money. He's now, Aaron Naughton, the longest signed player in the competition, 2032 signed till beats out Nick Blakey at 2031. Mackay, Oliver, Josh Dacos and Brennan Cox all signed until 2030. But the other point about Naughton with this one is it actually takes in a year of his time before he hits free agency. He wasn't becoming a free agent next year. He's actually only in his 7th year next year. So it's like a 7-year deal on top of the free agency, which is what he would have been offered anywhere he went and looked around. So that's just the marketplace. That's what it is.
Which club would be most disappointed to hear that he's re-signed at the Bulldogs for a further 8 years?
I think the Pies would have had some interest. I think the Swans would have had some interest. I think the Bombers would have had some interest. And, of course, the West Australian clubs as well. I think a few clubs were pretty surprised at how quickly this one has come about. And as Riley Beveridge broke this one yesterday afternoon, I think that the development of the CBA coming along has sped this one up pretty quickly.
This young man, had a modest season, injury form, confidence may have played a role in it. Xavier Dersma, what can you tell us about him? Is there a possibility that he might be on the move?
Yeah, it wasn't looking likely probably 4 to 6 weeks ago, but I do think that's sort of come into play now. He's got a year to go on his contract at Port Adelaide, so they hold the whip hand on that one. But there's interest in him in Victoria, and I think clubs are also sort of weighing that up as well to see what it would take from a trade point of view. We also know that Port Adelaide has to get its deals done, and they haven't lost a player. Last year, they did so well last year to get the players in without losing a player. Now, they've targeted Asava Radikalia, Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, and, of course, Jordan Sweet as well, and they have interest in Ivan Soldo. So you'd think at some point a player could get pipped out of that, given they've only got next year's future first rounder to play around with. But Xavier Dersma, I think that's certainly more in play now for Victorian clubs, and I think there might be an openness to it.
And his brother's in the draft as well, who's still seen to be a top 5 pick?
Yeah, he is, Zane Dersma. I think the Hawks, North Melbourne, if they get double picks at that point, we'll all be looking at him, even the Western Bulldogs if they end up with the Gold Coast pick, and Melbourne at pick 5. So, it'd be an interesting play. Maybe a club that has eyes on Zane grabs Xavier, knowing as well, Gary, that there's a third brother coming through in 2 years who is a very, very good talent, a key position player. All 3 Dersmas together would be quite a thing.
He's done well, old Dean Dersman, the dad. What about the Hawks? Are they having a look at the number 1 pick or not?
Yes, they are. There's going to be an exploring of things from their point of view, from pick 3 to see if they can get up to pick 1. using, of course, a future first-round pick to dangle there for the Eagles. Would they shift back 2 spots for the benefit of a future first-rounder? I'm not sure that'd be enough, but they've also got Tyler Brockman, who will go to West Coast. Don't know about his trade ad because he is going to the club that has the first pick in the preseason draft. So there's probably that leverage that West Coast have over that deal regardless. But yeah, the Hawks are going to have a look at it, and that's what you have to do. I don't know if their hand is going to be able to beat out what North Melbourne will put forward in the end. And if West Coast even shift in the end at all, or just take Harley. But they're in the mix.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I know you spoke about this yesterday, Cal, but the Hawks 2024 first pick plus Tyler Brockman, that wouldn't get that deal done, would it, with the West Coast Eagles, surely?
Probably not, but you also have to see what would tempt the Eagles. And the bit about this as well, Tim, is where the Hawks are at this point of the draft. Like, there's a fair chance that Daniel Curtin is still available on the board at that point for West Coast. So that's the decision that West Coast have to make as well. If they're that keen on Daniel Curtin to move back, how far can you move back and still make it a pretty clear certainty that he's going to be there? I think he's a good chance to be there at that point.
Would that be 3 then, or was that 4?
Yeah. 3, well, 4 if the combo pick comes in as most people expect for North.
How highly do you rate him? I mean, I've read
Daniel Curtin.
Daniel Curtin. I've read all different sort of reports from different people about him. What are you going to get for those people out there that don't know who this young kid is? What do you actually get, do you think?
I have him at number 6 on my fan and form guide. That's including Jed Walter, the Gold Coast Academy boy, who's kind of in the pool but not. So if you take him out number 5 in terms of the available players, he's a 195-centimetre key back who's played in the midfield, who's played some time forward as well throughout the championships, played some league footy for Claremont, played in Claremont's under-18 grand final a couple of weeks ago. The ultimate for him is to be a Matthew Pavlich type and do a bit of everything and do it athletically and these type of things. I think he'll start his career, though, as a third tall defender, and he can use the ball pretty well as well.
We're also being told off the old temper text that Yaz Dersma is playing in the AFLW, so the whole Dersma family's taking over. What about the connection of Hawthorn and Bailey Smith now? The Western Bulldogs have denied it 100 times that he's going anywhere, but there are those out there that want to continue to connect him to the Hawks.
I think it'd be unlikely this trade period, Gary. I think that's more of a 2024 discussion at this point. I'd be surprised if it went that way now. But the other thing to note as well with the Aaron Norton signature now is it actually gives the Dogs a fair bit of breathing space and time. And this is part of their strategy, I'm sure, from the Dogs to get one of their big kingpins signed up and then gives them some time to go and get to work on what it looks like for Jamari Ugle-Hagan, who I expect to sign. I think that's something that could happen over summer. Tim English will take his time because he's a free agent, and then Bailey Smith being a priority signing as well. So I think the Bailey Smith discussion is more a 24 discussion. But, you know, if you're going to dangle up pick 3, you also have to weigh up what's in the draft there, and there's some pretty talented players in the draft to be doing that at that point, I think.
Grand final was massive. Kiss, from all reports, hit it out of the park. It's been well received. You got the opportunity to sit down with them?
I did. I know we were talking about this in the lead-up, guys. I was pretty nervous on the day, but
Tim and I pulled a few strings for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That. Direct line to Gene Simmons.
Yep.
We sat down with Gene and Paul Stanley. They were very, very good company. Very, very pleasant, absolute pros. They were across the team selection. They knew Billy Frampton had sort of lucked out to get a spot in the grand final side. They were well across.
Did they think he was going to go to Harris Andrews and try and play that defensive forward role?
Yeah, I think that's why they thought he was in. And they weren't too fussed if he got too many kicks. They just thought if we can shut down Harris, then that's a good job from Billy. And they were pleased about that. So.
And did you impress them with your music knowledge, your depth of your music knowledge?
I think so. I think so. I said I knew. I've seen them 4 or 5 times and enjoy just more of the songs than the big 3. So, you know, Do You Love Me and a few of these other songs, Heaven's on Fire. And I think they like that. But to be fair, I think there's a Kiss Army that probably has seen them about 400 or 500 times, let alone my 4 or 5. So, but they're really good, really good.
Did you turn up with your face painted?
Yeah.
well, they didn't. I think some people didn't recognise them. I did get a little fist bump from them at the end of the interview, though, which was something I'd never thought I'd say.
Were they really talking during the interview or lip syncing?
They were talking, Tim. They were talking. It was all their words, all their songs, all their music.
Yeah, very nice work as always, Calculating Cal Toomey. You're about to come into your absolute hitting zone, and you can read all about it listen and watch from afl.com.au. Appreciate you joining us.
Hey, by the way, Tim, where are you off to?
I'm off to France and a little bit of Italy as well. Is there anybody I need to look up for you while I'm over there? I know you've spent a lot of time travelling that part of the world. Is there a band I need to catch in Paris or down in Marseille or maybe in Milan or Rome or anyone?
I'll check out the list and get back to you. I'll shoot you a message. But been a pleasure chatting with you every Thursday, guys, and have enjoyed it this year.
Good on you,
don't make yourself a stranger.
You're a star. Good luck in the coming weeks. Calculating Cal Toomey, afl.com.au. You can find all his best work.